Hi guys, welcome to nerdygirltv. Sam here, and I'd like to welcome you to our very first painting video. We're going to be looking at the Eldar Avengers from Warhammer 40k. Let's get to it. I'm an Eldar player and I love my Eldar to bits. What I have done recently is turn a lot of these Eldar Avengers into actual Marvel Avengers. So the video you're going to see today is me turning one of the Eldar Avengers into the comic book version of Hawkeye. As you can see here, I'm just cutting out the sprues using my clippers. You might notice that I am actually leaving part of the sprue on the model. This is because this is how I paint. I find it a lot easier to keep part of the sprue on the model. So then I use blue tack and stick it all together, which you'll see later on in the video. Okay, once I've cut everything out, I'm using the thin plastic glue that's available from the Games Workshops. I'm sure just a plastic glue in general will be fine. And I'm sticking together the front part of the torso and the back part of the torso. Trying not to use too much glue. I usually squeeze a little bit on, and then using the little needle nozzle there, I spread it out. And as you can see, there's the back piece. And I'm just going to place them. They usually fit together really nicely, so you just squeeze them together, hold them there for a couple of seconds, and then you are good to go. Okay, what I'm doing now, if you can see what I'm doing, there we go. I'm using a mold line remover just to smooth out the edges of the model. So that way when you do put the paint on, it's a nice smooth finish. I usually do that for every single piece, just if there's anything where I've cut it, it goes a bit wrong. Sorry about that, I couldn't really tell where the camera lens was. Whoops. So what I'm doing now is I'm using the blue tack to just make sure that the models are standing up, using that extra bit of sprue that I haven't cut off. It just makes it a lot easier when you're waiting for the models to dry. They're not on the flat on the surface you're painting on, so there's no risk of the paint coming off on the table or whatever it is you're painting on. Once everything's blue tacked in place, it's time to start painting. Finally, using the primer. Make sure if you're using any of the stuff from Games Workshop, give it a really good shake before you start. But you need to use the primer to ensure that the paint actually stays on the model. If you paint straight on with the colours, chances are it's just going to come off. So using just a standard brush, don't put too much on the brush, don't overcharge it. Just take each piece of your model and start priming. Just make sure that it's all covered. Nothing special, just make sure it has a nice even layer of primer across the entire model. And you do that for every single piece. Before we even start painting, we need to think about what colours we're using, so we need to find a source image. Here is the source image I found of Hawkeye. As you can see, there's a lot of purples and blues, and there is some flesh tones. So basically, what I'm going to start with is the lighter flesh tones, because when you're painting, it's a lot easier to paint over a lighter colour than it is with a darker colour than it is to paint. The base coat I'm using is Bugman's Glow. The base coat paints are actually a bit thicker than your average layer paints, and I'm using a standard brush to apply it to the model. As you can see in the corner, there's the reference picture for you all to see. That's what I'm basing this on. So I'm starting with the helmet, and I'm going to use the visor. Part of the visor is going to become the flesh tone. So I'm not putting a lot of paint on the paintbrush, and you have to be really careful and just carefully dab it on, just especially in those smaller areas, to make sure that it's accurate. I usually find myself going back for a second layer just to make sure that I've got it. The arms were a little bit trickier because they've got the weaponry attached. It is very tricky to make sure that you get the right bits painted. If you're trying it yourself, you probably might have a bit more success than me. Here we go, just doing the bottom of the arm and then the hand. And now moving on to the Cantor Blue, which is going to be my base for all the blue areas on the model. It's one of the darker base blues that I've found and that I absolutely adore. Again, using the standard brush. Just going to dab a little bit of the paint on, and I'm going to cover up the primer on the model. With this one, I'm not doing the whole of the leg. I'm only going to around the calf, as per the reference photo in the corner. But again, you need to make sure that you're covering all the primer so you get a nice even tone. From there, we're going to move on to the torso. Looking at the reference picture, it's only that middle torso area that's going to need to be blue. I'm taking some poetic license, if you will, with regards to what's being covered. Now moving on to the purple with a base of Nagaroth Knight. Again, using the standard brush. Making sure beforehand that you shake the paint, make sure it's all mixed in properly. I'm starting on a little accessory that goes on the back of the torso, so there is no reference picture for this, it's just part of the model. So by now we've done the flesh tone base, and now we're going to do the purple base. The whole of the helmet will be painted purple, and the additional H will be put on as well. Okay, still on the Nagaroth Knight. I'm now doing the shoulder pads and the back of the torso. I won't be making a quiver for the arrows, but I'm just trying to keep in with the colours. Then moving on to the boots, making sure they are also done in purple. I don't know about anyone else out there that does painting, but I find this awfully relaxing. And I can just paint and while away the hours. I can't sometimes lose track of time. Okay, we're now moving on to a silver base with a lead belcher. This is going to be for the weaponry and some of the accessories. Again, I'm using a detail brush now. So because the weaponry is a little bit smaller and you need to be a bit more careful, the detail brush is has slightly smaller bristles. Just allows for a little bit more intricacy. I'm also doing small brush strokes, a lot smaller than the ones used with the standard brush. It is a smaller area, and you just need to make sure that you're not going over those other bits you've just painted. So this is the second arm. Really, once you've done the small intricate pieces of the silver, I think I changed up to a standard brush because it is a much wider expanse and wider area. It just allows for a quicker coverage. And that just about does it for the base coats. If you stay tuned for our next video, I'll show you about the washes and the layering and finally the basing of the model once we've stuck it all together. Thank you for watching, and you have been watching Nerdy Girl TV. I'm Sam, and until next time, later days.